This is the helping relationship counseling and the helping relationship part three. So where we finished off last time was on transactional analysis, which is Eric Bernet. Um, Transactional analysis is a cognitive approach where things that are said to a child are important, and that leads them to operate out of one of three ego states, which could be the child, the parent, or the child, the adult, or the parent. And then we know that the child and the parent has what's called second order analysis or ego states. We learned about injunctions, which is the messages we receive from parents to form the ego states. They cause us to make certain early life decisions. We talked about transference. So, transference is when the client transfers feelings onto the therapist. And those are like displaced feelings. Common in that is projection, displacement, and repetition. We talked about transference neurosis, which was popularly used by Freudians, which stated that the client is attached to the counselor as if he or she is a substitute parent. And then we have countertransference is when the counselor or therapist displaces their past emotional feelings onto the client, or they become so attached or binded or have strong feelings towards the client that it impedes the therapeutic relationship. Other than that, we talked about how TA and just thought make a perfect pair because just TA is intellectual while just thought pushes like experiential and active exploration of feelings. Let's see, we talked about communication or transaction. So, in communication, when communication runs parallel, meaning excuse me, when the message vectors are in sync, the communication run parallel, and that results in complementary transaction in which you get an appropriate and predicted response. And the opposite of that would be cross transaction, which is when vectors from a message sent and a message received do not run parallel. This results in a deadlock of communication or a host of hurtful feelings. It's not conducive to healthy communication, and that's cross transaction. So that's just a little brief touch up on where we left off on part two, other than no, part one. Oh no, part two. What part is this? Yeah, this is part three. So that was where we left off on part two. Because part one was more so about Freud and psychoanalysis, defense mechanisms, and then I think we touched on yeah, the difference between psychoanalysis and psychodynamic. So picking up and continuing with transactional analysis, it often uses diagrams or pictorial representations in the treatment process. In TA, there are three life positions. No, I'm sorry, there's four life positions. So, TA life positions were made famous by Tom Harris's book, I'm Okay, You're Okay. Life positions tells the counselor how a person goes about receiving strokes slash recognition. So, how do you prefer to receive recognition? That's the life position. The four life positions are: I'm not okay, you're okay, I'm okay, you're okay, I'm okay, you're not okay, I'm not okay, you're not okay. So, in I'm not okay, you're okay, that would be a self abusive person. They often would lead, this would often lead the person to suicide. Okay. Okay, so the I'm not okay, you're okay is a self-abusive person. Is has a They have a masochistic personality. And masochistic would be that they receive gratification from being put through physical pain or humiliation. It can also refer to situations where people seek out or enjoy activities that create distress, discomfort, or pain. Like a sign that someone is a masochist is that they are unable to say no. Saying no is not selfish or unkind, it's an act of radical self care. So I'm not okay, meaning there's a problem with me, but you're okay. Like everyone else is fine. I'm the problem. I abuse myself, but I also, yeah, I abuse myself. I welcome pain and pleasure, pain. This would lead the person to suicide. I'm not okay. You're okay. I'm the problem. No one else is the problem. The second one is I'm okay, you're okay. So this is what a successful winners choose because they choose to see the good in themselves as well as other people. Like I'm okay, you're okay. We're all doing our own thing. We're all choosing to live our best life. I'm okay, you're not okay. They blame others for misery. This approach is taken on by adolescent delinquents and adult criminals. They feel victimized and often are paranoid. So I'm okay, you're not okay, meaning I'm okay, but there's something wrong with the world. I'm this way, I'm okay, but you know, capitalism is the problem. Or, um, you know, the world is such a scary place because people are crazy. So that's the I'm okay, you're not okay. And then the I'm not okay, you're not okay. This is the most pessimistic position. It could result in schizoid behavior, and in worst case scenario, the tendency to kill someone else, then take one's own life because I'm not okay, you're not okay. So think, kind of like schizophrenia, schizoid behavior with like delusions, hallucinations, and paranoia. So, under TA, we also have Stephen Karpman's drama triangle. It stated that only three roles are necessary for manipulative behavior, but no, manipulative drama. And those three roles are persecutor, rescuer, and victim. In a drama, the person switches roles during the course of the interaction. So Stephen Karpman's drama triangle. Only three roles are necessary for manipulative drama: the persecutor, the rescuer, and the victim. In a drama, the person switches roles during the course of the interaction. Example: a man slaps his wife for being lazy. She cries and he consoles her and begins crying, stating he can't continue to do all the housework. So, in that case, we see him being the persecutor, the slapper, the rescuer when he consoles her, and then the victim. You know, he's the one doing all the work. And the transactional game is a transaction with a concealed motive. Games prevent honest, intimate discussion, and one player is always left with negative feelings. Games have a predictable outcome as a result of ulterior transactions. An ulterior transaction occurs when a disguised message is sent. So, TA game or transactional game, a transaction with a concealed motive. The games prevent honest, intimate discussion, and one player is always left with negative feelings. Games have a predictable outcome as a result of ulterior transaction. The game has a predictable outcome because one person is coming into the game with their hidden motives. Like they already know what they're going to do. An ulterior transaction occurs when a disguised message is sent. So, kind of when think about like a boy and a girl, I think about a boy and a girl dating, right? And they're both showing some type of interest, but he's being a little coy. Like he's not exactly saying what he wants from her. Um, but like for instance, if he wants sex, that would be a transaction with a concealed motive because he's communicating with her, but the motive is the sex. And then the games, that communication back and forth, the flirting, the will they, won't they, the I'm going to give you some interest but not go all the way there. That is, of course, going to prevent honest, intimate discussion. And because you're not necessarily being your complete self, you're only trying to give a person a portion of yourself to get what you want, to reach your motive. And then, of course, that's going to leave the other person with the negative feelings. And then games have a predictable outcome as a result of ulterior transactions, meaning, if you play the game well and you play it long enough, then the guy will get the sex. Um, and then the ulterior transaction occurs when a disguised message is sent, like the flirting. Game analysis is the act of looking at the consequences of games, analyzing the games. How does this truly affect me, and how does this affect other people? A first degree game In a first degree game, the harm is minimal, but the level of harm is quite serious in a third degree game. In a third degree game, the harm can be permanent or deadly. Under that, you also have rackets. Rackets is an unpleasant feelings after a person creates a game. When a client manipulates others to experience a childhood feeling. So rackets kind of has two definitions in a sense. Rackets is when a client manipulates others to experience a childhood feeling. So like say if in that situation he's manipulating her and he wants to get a childhood feeling of like the first time he was desired or the first time he lost his virginity, that excitement that came with that. So rackets is when a client manipulates others to experience a childhood feeling. It is unpleasant feelings after a person creates a game. The experience of trying to secure these feelings is known as collecting trading stamps. So the experience of trying to secure your childhood feelings is known as collecting trading stamps. A popular definition is contracting. Contracting can be verbal or written. It's, it's, it is a when a plan is created to help the client master his or her target behaviors. Is favored by behavior therapists and is used by both TA and behavior therapists. So, contracting is literally having a verbal or written contract of the client's target behaviors. And of course, the counselor is going to um, push the client in reaching those behaviors. So that's why it's favored by a behavior therapist, but it's also used in TA as well. The empty chair technique, the person imagines that another individual is in a chair in front of him or her, and then the client talks to the person. This is the empty chair technique is popular in TA and Gestalt therapy. So the empty chair is popular in TA and Gestalt. Life script. Life script Life script is a person's ongoing drama which dictates how a person will live his or her life. A plot based is a plot based on unconscious decisions made early in life. So remember that TA is about um, things that were communicated to you in childhood. So life script is a person's ongoing drama which dictates how a person will live his or her life. It is a plot based on unconscious decisions made early in life. So, things that you may have done in high school or in college, that creates the plot. And then you're living out the drama from those actions that were unconscious at the time. So Claude Steiner, whose book Scripts People Live, suggests three basic unhealthy scripts. That is no love, no mind, and no joy. It is a theoretical plot based on early parental messages. And that's Claude Steiner. Then we have script analysis, the process of ferreting out the client's script. So the client has this life script that where the plot was based on unconscious decisions made early in life. Now they're living in the ongoing drama, which dictates his how he or she is living their life. So the life script categories, the life script analysis would first be the process of ferreting out the client's script. Then we have life script categories. You have the never script, a person who never feels he or she will succeed. So never script, I will never be able to reach that. I'll never do this. Never, 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 never. You'll never succeed. They don't believe in themselves. The always script, individuals who will always remain a given way. Always stay the same. I am who I am. I'ma always be like this. So the never script is I will never reach certain my goals, the always script, I'm going to always be this way. The after scripts results the after script results in a way a person believes he or she will behave after a certain event occurs. So after I get a job or after I get a car, or after I get the promotion, the after scripts. Open-ended scripts, the person has no direction or plan, just kind of freestyling. It's open-ended. We'll see. Until scripts, the client is not allowed to feel good until a certain accomplishment or event arrives. Like I won't be happy until I graduate. I won't make enough money until I get my degree. Until scripts. Then we have desirable script versus the less desirable script, which I didn't have. I didn't get a good um, definition or example of that of desirable or less desirable. And then you have ulterior transactions contain hidden transactions or as two or more ego states are operating at the same time. Ulterior transactions contain hidden transactions as two or more ego states are operating at the same time. According to Dr. Leonore Walker, who researched women in abusive relationships, there is a cycle of violence with three phases. The first phase is the tension building phase, where arguments erupt very easily. Women begin walking on eggshells. Second is battering or acute incident phase, where the actual fight or abuse, sexual abuse, or homicide occurs. So that's the battering or acute incident phase. And then it's the makeup phase or honeymoon phase. It's often characterized by romantic moonlight dinners, promises to never do it again, and gifts. As time goes by, the couple goes through the phases more rapidly, and the honeymoon phase may not even exist. And that was tension building phase, battering or acute incident phase, the makeup or honeymoon phase. And those were the three phases of abuse in women, which is a cycle, according to Dr. Leonore Walker. All right, and then we are moving to Alfred Adler and the Adlerian theory. So, Alfred Adler is the father of individual therapy. Adler is loosely associated with analytic psychology with Freud and Jung. And we know Freud is psychodynamic, psychoanalysis, psychosexual, and Jung is father of analytic, think psychology, the analytical psychology. And he had the archetypes. So Alfred Adler is loosely associated with analytic psychology with Freud and Jung. He was a very sick child because of rickets, which is a disease caused by the absence of vitamin D. He could not walk until the age of 4. He then was the victim of pneumonia as well as a series of accidents. So his theory, the Adlerian theory of individual therapy, suggests that the major psychological goal is to escape deep-seated feelings of inferiority. So if we just remember that, he was a sick child, he couldn't walk until 4, he got pneumonia, then got into a series of accidents, like life was throwing things at him at a very early age, which would make you feel inferior because at 4, if you're just now learning to walk, but you have a little cousin that's 2 that's walking, you're going to feel inferior. It's going to be frustrating even at the age of 4. You finally start walking, you're living your life, and then bam, here comes pneumonia. Then bam, here comes an accident. Then bam, here comes another one. Like you're going to feel inferior. So just remember that Alfred Adler, the father of individual therapy, said that the major psychological goal is to escape deep seated feelings of inferiority. People wish to belong, which would be social connectedness. Social connectedness. So Alfred does believe that people wish to belong. It reminds me of that movie. I don't even know the name, but the little boy. Oh, was this Forrest Gump? When he had those old school braces on his legs, and he wanted to play baseball with them. But they was like, oh, he can't. Like he would have felt inferior because he has this handicap, this visible handicap, and then he wanted to belong, like he wanted to play like everyone else. He desired social connectedness. And then I think he ended up like hitting the ball and running, and then he never stopped running. I think that was Forrest Gump. So he initially believed that aggressive desires were responsible for most human behaviors, but altered to believing that the major factor was the will to power. Finally, so he basically thought that aggressiveness, the innate aggressiveness or innate, what is it? That Freud believed. Let me see. Okay, so remember in the human growth section, we learned that Freud and Conrad Lorenz believed in the innate aggression theory, which said that aggression was inborn. Side note is Albert Bandera and Associates disagreed with that. They said that anger, no, aggression and frustration was learned. Um, but Freud and Conrad thought it was innate. You remember Conrad compared humans to baboons and the wolf. So knowing that, and then knowing that, okay, Alfred Adler was loosely associated with Freud, um, he, in his association, originally thought that um, aggressive drives were responsible for most human behaviors, but altered to believing that the major factor was the will to power. So thinking of going back to the Forrest Gump example is, he didn't want to play baseball because he just wanted to swing the bat at something hard and destroy the ball. No, like he had a will to power. He wanted to not no longer feel inferior, right? And then finally, he concluded that it was the striving for superiority or a thirst for perfection that motivated behavior. So, going back to the Forrest Gump analogy, you know, he runs, the braces fall off, and then he never runs again. Then he meet Jeannie, and Jeannie was a little pothead, but he didn't see any wrong in her, and he was running all these marathons and trying to think the basis of the movie is he was trying to be, I don't know if he was trying to be in the news, but I'm gonna say he was thirsting for perfection. And that motivated his behavior, like, because he kept on running and running and running. So we're gonna label that as striving for superiority. He wanted to do what hadn't been done before. So that's that's how I think about the steps of Alfred Adler's theory is the Forrest Gump analogy. So he believed that the drive for superiority did not imply that the person wanted to dominate others or become a political figure or one of the ruling class. Again, it's just about a thirst for perfection and striving for superiority. So Alfred Adler founded Child Guidance. Alfred Adler founded child guidance clinics to observe children's behavior. So Alfred Adler would have looked at Forrest Gump as a child. He was one of the first therapists who relied on paradox. So paradox is when you exaggerate the behavior full out. So paradox would be if if I think I'm thinking about having a conversation with my mom, and in this conversation, I imagine that I'm gonna storm around the house because and clap my hands because I need to get her message. I need to get my message across. So in paradox, you would exaggerate it full out in the therapy session. Like I'm gonna stump, I'm gonna clap, I'm gonna scream, I'm gonna yell, I'm gonna get that out. Um, Paradox is also associated with Viktor Frankl, who pioneered logotherapy, which is a form of existential treatment. Existential treatment. All right. Paradox defies the logic as the client is instructed to intensify or purposely engage in the adaptive behavior. Because if I'm stumping, yelling, screaming, cursing, that's an adaptive behavior. That's not what would be recommended, but it's a paradox. It's purposely engaging in it. Paradox is very popular with family therapists due to the work of Jay Haley, which we know him as being strategic and associated with paradox, and Milton Erickson, and we know him for being a hypnotist and brief therapy. Um, those family therapists believe it reduces a family's resistance to change. You break down the walls. You get to see what it looks like. Alfred Adler believed our lifestyle is a predictable, self-fulfilling prophecy based on our psychological feelings about ourselves, i.e., individualism. So, our lifestyle is a predictable, self-fulfilling prophecy based on our psychological feelings about ourselves. That's why it's the individual therapy. So you're more concerned about yourself no longer feeling inferior and feeling superior. It emphasizes lifestyle, birth order, and family constellations. Birth order in the family constellation would be tells us that the firstborn slash oldest child could be dethroned by a later child who gets most of the attention. Thus, the firstborn would be prone to experiencing feelings of inferiority. They often go to great lengths to please their parents. So they tend to be over obedient. And we know that these children also enjoy socialization the most. The second child will try to compete with the firstborn and often surpasses the first child's performance. The middle child will often feel that he or she is being treated unfairly. They are seen as being quite manipulative. The youngest can be pampered or spoiled, but often excel by modeling or imitating the older children's behavior. Birth order has been criticized by theorists such as Wayne Dyer, who's famous for a self improvement book, Your Erroneous Zones. Adlerians are didactic, and didactic means learning principled, and use homework assignments like REBT. Um, REBT falls under the cognitive category as well. Oh, sorry, REBT falls under the cognitive category. Just a FYI. So, Adlerians are didactic, meaning learning principled, and use homework assignments like REBT practitioners. Adlerian in practice would look like: what would life be like if you were functioning in an ideal manner? Act as if you did not have the problem. So, our Adlerian is, remember, pushing superiority. What will life look like for you in a ideal manner? How can you reach towards that perfection, that superiority? It uses paradox. Act as if you did not have the problem. You know, go ahead and use this time to act the problem out, the paradox technique. So that way, when you get into the real world, you know how to, you don't behave in that same manner. So, individual therapy, founded by Alfred Adler, individual stresses the unique qualities we each possess, analyzes organ inferiority and the methods in which the individual attempts to compensate for it. Because remember, he had the rickets disease. So it analyzes organ inferiority and the methods in which the individual attempts to compensate for it. It emphasized superiority. Sibling interaction has more impact than parent child interaction because it believed in the birth order, family constellation, and emphasizes lifestyle. Also, it believed that we need each other, we need one another, social connectedness. Just a little box of something to know: we have Rudolf Dreikurs. He was a student of Alfred Adler, was the first to discuss group therapy in private practice. He introduced Adlerian principles to the treatment of children in the school setting, and that's Rudolf Dreikurs.